Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studios in Atlanta, it's time for Charitable Georgia. Brought to you by Bees Charitable Pursuits and Resources. We put the fun in fundraising. For more information, go to beescharitablepursuits.com. That's BEES charitablepursuits.com. Now, here's your host, Brian Pruitt.
Good, fabulous Friday morning. It's another fabulous Friday. We've got three more fabulous guests. And I'm going to do a little update first. First of all, Sharon, welcome back doing producing this morning.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's always nice to have Sharon in the house. Not that we don't like Stone, but as I mentioned, Sharon's a little better looking to look at.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, God.
No, and Sharon, thank you for coming out to my event the other night. We had a big locker room chat with several former athletes out at the Crosspoint City Church in Cartersville for All In, All Out Ministries, which if you listen to the show, you've listened to Kevin's story. But if you haven't, first of all, the show is all about positive things happening in the community. And Kevin Harris has started All In, All Out Ministries, helping men with addiction. And so at the fundraiser, we did everything the other night, and we raised $10,300 for him. So
Wow.
You know you're doing good. As Amanda just said, you know you're good when you can make somebody cry. We made Kevin cry at least 4 times Wednesday night. So that's awesome. So, all right, like I said, we've got 3 more fabulous guests this morning, and our first guest this morning is Kimberly George from Mary Kay. So, Kimberly, thank you for being here.
Thank you, Brian.
So, Kimberly has got an incredible backstory, which we'll hear in just a second, but you're a 20-year veteran of the Navy, right?
That's correct.
So, if you don't mind, share your story, and then we'll talk about why you're passionate in what you're doing.
Yeah, so the military was not a thing that I thought I would do when I was younger. My family was never in the military. My dad, he was drafted in the Vietnam War. So he did his time, and then he was out. And he never talked about it ever again. So I really don't even know really what he did during that time. But I started 12th grade, and I was pregnant. I had my daughter at the first day of 12th grade. So I went to school that day, and then I went into labor that night.
Wow.
And had her the next morning. And so I was trying to figure out, like, okay, what am I going to do? Now I have a baby. I got to finish 12th grade, and I was going to college. It was no question, was I going to college or not? I wanted to go out of state because I wanted to get away from home. But, of course, plans changed, right? So I graduated from high school, and I went to college. I went to Southern University, which is the HBCU in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And my whole thought process was, how can I go to college and not have to get a job to take care of my child, but also go to college at the same time? So I had an academic scholarship. I also ran track in high school and ended up with a track scholarship. And the way my school worked was, if you have overages, as far as if your tuition is paid for, then that extra money goes back into your pocket. And so I kind of went in like it was a business, right? And so I was like, how else can I get more scholarships to get more money in my pocket so I don't have to work? And so when I went to freshman orientation, there was a table set up by the NROTC at college. And I walked by, not even thinking about it at all. I walked by and they were like, how would you like to get your school paid for? And I was like, wait, what? School paid for? Okay, what I got to do, right? Because my mind was like, more money. Yes. And so I did the whole process, signed up, did NROTC for the 4 years in college. And then I ended up in the Navy. And it wasn't like, oh, I want to join the Navy. It was just like, okay, they paid for me to go to college for 4 years. I got to do 4 years in the military. So I was commissioned as soon as I graduated. I graduated on May 10th. I was commissioned on May 10th. And I ended up having to select a ship because I was a surface warfare officer. So I had to select a ship. And I wanted to get the closest ship to home because home was Louisiana. My daughter was in Louisiana. I ended up in San Diego. So not close at all. So my daughter had to stay at home with my mom for that first period while I was on the ship. I deployed on that ship twice and went to the Middle East. I was the ordnance officer, so I was in charge of all of the weapons, all of the guns on board, all of the ammo on board. And the captain of that ship, his motto was, gun smoke is good, more is better, which means that we had to shoot a weapon every single day while we were out to sea. So that was a lot of fun. So then I left there and I tried to get closer to home again, and I ended up in Pascagoula, Mississippi. And if you know anything about Pascagoula, like, oh no, I thought Baton Rouge was like bad, but oh my gosh, Pascagoula, there is nothing there. But I was closer to home where I was able to get my daughter, and so she had been with me since I got to Pascagoula. But I was the damage control assistant on that ship, so it was another ship in Pascagoula, and I was in charge of all of damages, so like fire, flooding, and you'll be surprised. We actually have a lot of flooding on ships, which is the worst thing that can happen because ships are supposed to float, right? Water's not supposed to get in the ship. But we had lots of under the waterline flooding. So like our main engine room started to flood one time. It was very scary, but we got through it.
So there was a big hole in the bucket.
Yes, a huge bowl, like a huge hole, which is not supposed to happen. So then I left there and I went to Monterey, California, and Naval Postgraduate School, which is like the best secret in the Navy. It's a little hidden gem in Monterey, California. Monterey, California is absolutely gorgeous, by the way. But I ended up getting my master's degree in physics, but not because I'm smart. Not at all. I'd asked the detailer, and detailer is the person that like gives you your jobs and stuff. I said, hey, what is the longest curriculum here? Because once I got done, I had to go back to the ship, right? So I wanted to be on shore duty for as long as possible. And he said, the longest curriculum is physics, and it's 2 years. And I was like, I'll take it. Whatever I need to do, I need to stay on land for as long as possible. So I got my master's degree in physics and then left there. And then went back to a ship in Washington State, and I was the chief engineer. So I was in charge of the whole engineering department, which was making electricity, making the water, to potable water, in charge of the engines, the diesels, all of that stuff that has anything to do with engineering. And then left there, went to San Diego, California. And in between there, I was in Rhode Island for like spurts of time because that's where our schooling and stuff happens in Rhode Island. And then San Diego, I was on another ship. Well, actually, I was the materials officer, so I was in charge of 10 different ships for their engineering department. And then left there, went to the Pentagon in Virginia, was there for 4 years. And at the Pentagon, I worked on and people are always surprised about this, but I was part of the nuclear weapons portfolio and the biological and chemical weapons portfolio. And then left there, and then I made it to Georgia. I'm not from Georgia, made it to Georgia, but it was my last duty station, and I was the executive officer and commanding officer for all Navy recruiting. So Navy recruiting in Georgia, Alabama, and Panama City, Florida. And so COVID happened during that tour also, and that made me decide I would do 20 years and I would get out because it was very challenging. It was very rough. And in the midst of all of that, I had started my Mary Kay business 11 years ago. And again, it kind of was the same way how I got in the Navy also, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, I want to do Mary Kay. It just kind of happened because the girl on the ship with me, and it was only me and her on the ship as far as females, and it was 274 guys. So we had to kind of stick together a little bit. She had started her business. She didn't tell me she started her business. She was just like, hey, I have this business idea I want you to listen to. And I'm like, oh, what is it? And she was like, I'm not telling you what it is. Because I didn't wear makeup. I really didn't take care of my skin, and she didn't either. And so I got on this call. And the lady on the call, she started talking about the business opportunity. I was like, you know what, that sounds pretty good. I think I'll do it. And so I started on a Sunday, and then I went out to sea for a whole week. And I completely forgot that I had started my Mary Kay business. When I came home, my husband was like, hey, there's a box at the door. Like you ordered something that says Mary Kay. And I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. I did start a Mary Kay business. So I opened it up. I had to call the lady who told me about the business, like, okay, what do I do with these products? I had no idea. So she had to walk me through how to use the products. And so 11 years later, here I am. I've earned 6 free cars since then, with one of them being a pink Cadillac. So people always ask, do you drive a pink Cadillac? Yes, I've earned a pink Cadillac, working on the second one now, and absolutely love it. So
that's a lot of good information. So on the pink Cadillac, I'm curious, did they get that because Elvis drove a pink Cadillac first?
I don't know.
We should ask Mary Kay that.
But you know what? Mary Kay, so the reason why she picked the color pink was because, and this is so crazy, it was so Mary Kay started in 1963 when she opened the doors. But she loved the color pink because it was the color of the bathrooms at the time were pink. So she liked it, and she was like, you know what? I'm going to get this color car when I go to the dealership. And she did.
You might want to remember that. That might be a trivia question one day.
Yeah, right.
Yes. So I want to go back to some questions about the Navy. So were you on any aircraft carriers?
I was.
What were the ones were you on?
So I was on the Vincennes, which was stationed out of Washington. And I wasn't stationed on them. I embarked on them for deployment. So then when I went to San Diego and I was a part of a destroyer squadron staff, we embarked on another one. And that one was the, oh gosh, it just slipped my mind. What was it? Oh, the Lincoln. The Lincoln.
So my cousin was in Desert Storm, and he was on the Nimitz first and then the Saratoga. And his job in the Navy was he was in charge of the ejection seats for the pilots.
Oh, wow.
And if you remember anything at all about Desert Storm, you guys may be too young. I'm too old for this. But there was a couple of pilots who had to eject, and they were rescued. And my cousin's the one that worked on those seats for them. And I guess their thank you gift that they do for pilots was they brought him one of those commemorative Crown Royal bottles and stuff. I don't know if he ever drank it, but I know it was on his TV for a while. So, what was, I guess, maybe do you have a favorite memory that you can share from the Navy?
I would say a favorite. I don't know if it's a favorite memory, but it's an interesting memory. We were doing counter drug ops in South America. And it's crazy. So there are submersible little objects. They're not even ships or boats or anything, but this is what they use to carry the drugs on. And people were on board also on this little submersible object. And they're trying to get from one country to the U.S., the closest place they can land in the U.S., to be able to offload the drugs. And so we tracked it with our sonar, tracked this object. So we got like super close for it to come up. And when it submerged, or not submerged, but like when it came up, the people jumped out of the object. So now they're in the water. They set it on fire because the drugs were in there because they didn't want us to get it, right? So then we, instead of trying to like get this object, it turned into a search and rescue mission because now we had to get the people off board. We had to put the fire out, and we were like really close with our ship to this fire, burning fire. So we were worried like, okay, is our ship going to catch on fire too? So it became this whole problem solving thing that we had to do. We ended up getting the people on board. We took them to Cuba, actually. They went to jail. And it was over 500 tons of cocaine, heroin, all of those big-time drugs. So.
Wow. Was it Quantico? You going to take them to Quantico? No? A Few Good Men's one of my favorite movies, by the way. So I think it's really cool. You spent 20 years in the service, so thank you for your service. But also the fact that you're a prime example of it's just not men, right? When I was growing up, it was kind of looked down on that the females served. Mm-hmm. Maybe if you can, just share a little bit of advice for some young ladies who might be listening that might be thinking about going that route.
Yeah, so the military has opened up tremendously. There are so many benefits, to the military also, which I think a lot of people don't even know about or realize the benefits. But there are lots of women now that are joining the military. Right now, we're at about, it's still very low numbers, but we're at about 17 to 20% female in the military right now. But there's so many leadership roles. When I joined, I went in straight as a leader. And it's so funny because my first division, when I went to my first ship, I was one of 7 females on board the whole ship, and it had 300 and something people on the ship, right? But my division, I had 25 people in my division. I was 21 years old, and I was leading this division, and my chief was 42. He was double my age. So one, he never worked with a female before at that time, and he never worked with a black person, in charge of him too. So it was challenging. I have to say it was challenging. It took us about 6 months because I wasn't going anywhere, and he wasn't going anywhere. So we had to figure out how to make it work and how to be able to move our division forward. And this is the one where the captain was like, gun smoke is good, more is better. So we had to figure out how to get past the differences, which I didn't have a problem with. But he had to figure out how to get past me being there and telling him what to do, so that we can get these guns shooting every single day, and getting the maintenance done on the guns and that kind of stuff. And at the end of his tour, he gave me an awesome gift. He was like, thank you so much, which I'm so glad I was able to be kind of the example for him, right? So because he's going to run into other females in the military. Well, he's out now, but the next job he will have run into other females too. But there are so many opportunities for people, like college opportunities and, getting your school paid for, insurance, medical insurance, all kinds of opportunities for people that join the military. But women also, I think it's so good for people to see women at high levels in the military also, because representation matters, And so for me, I just felt like I was an example for a lot of the females that were coming in, because you don't really see people at, women at a top level in the military. So I think we're like starting that wave. Right now, we're going to have our first female CNO of the Navy. She just got appointed by President. So we're breaking barriers. We're coming in and we're not sitting down and we're not being quiet about it either. So I'm excited about that.
That's awesome. So your officer there must have been a Marshall Dillon fan. Right, Gunsmoke.
So?
That must be. So
yeah, he probably was. Gunsmoke is good.
right. So actually, you did just something. You have a big heart as well. You not only care about, obviously, and passion about the military and Navy and the community itself, but you actually just did something along with other people in Mary Kay, but for the deployed servicemen and women. Share about that.
Yeah, so I always wonder, how can I use my business to give back and to support others? And I'm a big proponent of the military, obviously, right? Because it was 20 years of my life. How can I give back to the organization that I just left? And so every year we partner with this organization called Operation Courage is Beautiful, and they send care packages to deployed service members. And I really like to do it in the summertime because it's super hot. And so we have service members in Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, all of those different countries where the temperatures are if we think it's hot right now in Georgia, it's really hot in Kuwait, but a lot of the service members don't have the resources for sun protection and skincare, and that kind of stuff. A lot of service members don't even receive care packages, and care packages are like gold when you're on deployment. My first deployment, my husband didn't send me anything on my first deployment, no care packages. My mom didn't send anything, it was rough. And so, they never heard the last of it. My next deployment, they had learned their lesson. I got care packages. I was like a celebrity because I was getting care packages all the time, but I was able to share with other people that never got care packages while on deployment. So care packages are huge. If you get a piece of mail with your name on it, even if it's a letter, that's the best thing you can do for your deployed service member. And I know that. So being able to partner with that organization who gives care packages to deployed service members, and I was able to put in skincare that has SPF in it, it makes a huge difference for the deployed service members too. So this year, I was able to send over 400 packages to be able to send out to deployed service members. And we've been getting letters back saying, thank you so much. This is exactly what I needed, and they also put in Girl Scout cookies, and all of that stuff too with the skincare that we send. But it's a really big deal. And so it makes a huge difference. It helps them get through deployment also because somebody is thinking about them,
Well, I hope they didn't put the lotion on and then eat the cookies because they probably ate some lotion at the same time. But no, that's awesome. So other than being a representative for Mary Kay, can you give us a benefit of Mary Kay that might be better than some of the other products that are out there?
Yeah. So one is, if you're my customer or my client, you get me as your consultant. But what I really like is that, if you go to a store, let's say you go to Macy's or whatever, right, and you buy skincare, you can't call them and say, hey, how do I use this again? Or wait, what works best with this? Okay, my skin is breaking out. What do you think? You can't go back and ask those types of questions to them. Or you can't even, if you open it and you realize oh, this is not the right one, you can't return it either, right? You can return your products back to me. It doesn't come out of my pocket. Everything's 100% guarantee. But then I can also walk you through how to properly use the product, what the product is supposed to do. I follow up with you to make sure that you're getting the right results, right? Because if it's wait a minute, your skin's not supposed to be breaking out. What's happening? Let's make sure you're using it properly. Okay, what are you allergic to? I can look up and see, if that has those types of ingredients that you're allergic to. So much, right? And we always talk about customer service, but you really get upgraded customer service when you have a Mary Kay consultant.
So I know I was kind of like our friend Bob Brooks and thought Mary Kay was just for women. But share about all the products, because you do have things for men, and I'm sure there's other things that we may not know about. So share some of those.
So we have a whole men's line that has a facial wash. We have what Bob calls Frank's hot sauce, which is for its instant puffiness reducers, right? I call it the magic eraser for puffiness underneath the eye area, and that's for anybody, men and women.
You have to tell why he calls it that.
He puts it everywhere.
All right, there you
go. We have fragrances, we have body care, skincare, of course, for men and women. Also, we even have skincare for ages 4 to 17, because we want kids to start taking care of their skin at an early age. So when they get older, they won't be like, man, I wish I would have, but also to learn about skincare, because a lot of times people be out in the sun, they aren't protecting their skin. Like, the sun is not good when it comes to skincare. It causes damage. It causes wrinkles. It causes dark spots, all of that stuff. And so we provide education too, right, about skincare. But then we also have makeup. A lot of times people always, when they hear Mary Kay, they think, oh, makeup. It's not just makeup. It's like 80% skincare, and then you have the makeup also. And so I love providing the education to people about how to take better care of your skin, what you can do. Because sometimes when we look in the mirror, we're like, man, I need to lift this up. I need to pull this back. I need to get rid of these wrinkles here. And so starting sooner rather than later helps with that. But we have products for any and everything. Fragrances, I don't know if I said that. But bath care, body care, feet care, all of that stuff.
Got any car deodorant?
No.
So explain how kind of Mary Kay and you guys work, because I know there are there's a lot of Mary Kay consultants out there.
Yeah.
Do you guys have certain territories? How does that work?
Yeah, so there are no territories, but we pride ourselves on what we call the go give spirit and the golden rule, right? Which is to treat others the way you want to be treated. But the go give is like, if I'm out and about and I'm talking to someone and I say, oh, I do Mary Kay. Do you have a Mary Kay consultant? And if she says yes, then that's the end of that's not the end of the conversation, but that's the end of like me talking about Mary Kay, right? She can ask me questions about products and all of that stuff, but I'm going to always refer her back to her consultant, because we never want to take a customer from a consultant, because there are millions of people. There's enough people, to go around for you to have a consultant also, or a customer as well. So if I do a party and there's people there and there's a couple people who already have Mary Kay consultants, they can order from me at the party, but I won't follow up with them. I'll say, you got to go back to your consultant, follow up with your consultant, ask your consultant these questions and that kind of stuff. Because again, we never want to take anybody away from that consultant. And so we pride ourselves on that.
So can you share about what what kind of party are you doing?
Yeah, we like to get down and dirty. But we do all kinds of parties. So bridal bashes. So people that are getting married or having an anniversary, a wedding anniversary or anything like that, they get girlfriends together, even guy friends together, and we would do pampering. We call them pampering sessions. Well, we'll do like a hand and lip softening treatment with an anti-aging facial, deep pore cleansing treatment. We do just regular pampering sessions. We do birthday bashes. So, girlfriends get together for a birthday. You have a pampering session, a spa night. We also do birthday bashes. We call them classes also. We do makeover parties, makeover bashes. We do mimosas and makeovers. I mean, like, there's so many things you can do.
That could be trouble in itself right there. Do you guys do any of those parties as fundraisers?
We do. So I have a girlfriend who, she's doing it for a sporting team right now, because sports getting ready to start back up for high school. And so to help parents be able to cover the fees for their kids. So she's donating part of her profits, because we make a 50% profit. So she's donating part of her profits to the organization to help pay for the kids. Yesterday, I did an event with Ignite Hope, which is an organization that supports foster families and adoptions. And so I did free makeovers for the moms, the foster moms, and the kids got some lipstick. So they loved it. They thought they were getting made over too. But so yeah, we always do events and stuff like that too.
So I know a guy does fundraisers. We'll have to talk.
Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah. So, all right. So you do a lot of networking. You're out and about. You go to several of the groups that I go to as well. And we always talk about the power and positivity of networking. Can you share a story that's happened to you while networking?
Yeah. So, well, first off, I didn't even know networking groups existed until I retired from the Navy. And I got a magazine in the mail, and it was for Active Business Association. And it said, ABA meeting, Active Business Association meeting. And I was like, Business Association, what is that? So I called the number and I was like, hey, can I attend this? Is this like something I can go to? And they were like, yeah, you can come, and they gave me the details of when the next meeting was. And I was like, okay, so I showed up. I didn't know I had to have a spiel to say anything, I was completely new to networking. And this was a year ago, like last year, May, because I retired last year from the military, July 1st. But I was on terminal leave and I got the magazine. And so I showed up and, it was so welcoming because people recognize new faces, right? And they welcome you in, ask you questions and that kind of stuff. I had no idea what to say. I was so clueless. But then thankfully, and at my first networking meeting, this is when Bob called me out and he was like, oh, you do Mary Kay? Oh, I won't be able to use your services, but I can probably refer you. I was like, no, we have men products. And
always good to put Bob in a place. That's good.
Yes. And so, I stood up, fumbled through my 30-second spiel and got better over time. But as I started to meet people, one thing was, I didn't even know that senior living homes were a thing, and I learned this through networking, and I have met so many people, and I have been able to go into senior living homes now, and I pamper the residents, which is a lot of fun. They love it. You'll be surprised. Those ladies love their makeup. And they love when someone comes in and just pamper them and just kind of let them be, right? Let them look in the mirror, tell them how beautiful they are and all of that stuff too. But I love connecting people, not just me, but like connecting other people together. And so being able to sit down and listen to someone tell me a little bit about them and about their business. And I'm thinking in my mind, like, okay, who would be a connection for this person? Like, who can I connect them with? And I've been able to make a lot of connections for other people through networking, which I probably would have never done because I didn't even know that was a thing.
I love that aspect. That's one of my third passions is connecting others with others. And that's one reason I shared last week why I bring 3 people on the show at one time is to connect others with others, unless you're a husband and wife team. So, if somebody's listening and wants to get a hold of you for your services, how can they do that?
So you can follow me on any social media platform. I am MZ, so Ms. Kimberly George, and Kimberly is with the LY, George, George, but Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, whatever else is out there, Threads, Instagram Threads. Yes, I am on Threads now.
All right. So the other question I have for you, other than the difference of reason why you network, why is it important for you to be part of the community?
Because I like giving back, for one, but I also, I am still a huge proponent of the military. I am still recruiting for the Navy in my mind, right? But I enjoy sitting down and telling people about things that they probably don't know, like the benefits that the Navy has, right? I'm taking a client to her granddaughter to a Navy recruiting office to just sit down with her and answer questions for her, but to also make sure she's getting the right services that she needs to, right? But I also love telling people about Mary Kay and educating the community on what Mary Kay has to offer, because a lot of people, one, think it's all just women products and not for men, but also think that it's only makeup, and it's not, and it's a whole bunch of other stuff too. But then I love educating about skincare as well. I'm very passionate about skincare because when I go to the senior living homes, the ladies in there tell me they wish they would have started taking care of their skin at a younger age, and now they're 75, 80 years old, and they're like, I need this, and I need to pull this back, and I need to, get rid of this line here, and so I love being able to teach and educate about why skincare is so important as well.
Awesome. All right. So one more time, just share your website if you can real quick.
Yes. So my website is, you can either thatmarykay.com. Or you can go to marykay.com/kgeorge43.
Awesome. Well, Kimberly, thanks for sharing a little bit of your story. Don't go anywhere because we're really not done with you yet, but we're going to move over to now Amanda and Clay Gentry, Real Property Management. Thanks for being here, guys.
Thank you.
So we're going to talk to your better half first, Clay. Ladies first,
yes.
And she starts with an A, so we're going to go that route. So So, Amanda, you also are a professor, right, at Shorter University, and you also do a lot of things for the youth because you work with Excel Christian Academy and cheerleading and that kind of thing. So, share a little bit of your background.
Yeah, so I actually went to Excel Christian Academy in Cartersville, Georgia, and then I went to Lee University after that, where I did cheer. I was a collegiate cheerleader. I graduated with a BS. That stands for Bachelor's of Science, people.
I have a lot of BS, by the way. Two BSs, and that's my first and two initials, so we're good.
There you go. A Bachelor of Science in Human Development, but with a business minor. And then I went into academia immediately, but on the coaching side. I didn't really love it as much as I thought I was going to, so I ended up working for the Fellowship of Christian Athletes for a little bit, for the state director, Robert Green, in Tennessee. Then I went to Tennessee Wesleyan. I was like, you know what, I want to go back to academia, but I want to go into academics of higher ed versus athletics. So I went to Tennessee Wesleyan University, where I got my master's, my MBA, and I did the Management Excellence program. That's the adult degree completion program. So, you know, when life happens, like maybe you did have a baby in college, or you had to drop out for work or something, or military service, this is where they come back and finish that degree. So I ran that program for a while, and I decided I wanted to teach. So I went and got my PhD in org behavior with a human resource development cognate. And now I'm at Shorter University. I teach HR there, management, nonprofit management, all that fun stuff in both the undergrad and graduate level. And then I also adjunct at Tennessee Wesleyan University. You know, where it started. I adjunct in their MBA program. And then, exciting news, I just got hired on at Oral Roberts for their doctoral program.
Awesome. So, congratulations.
I'm excited about that, to add that to my resume as well. But that's a little bit about my background. I did work at United Way briefly. I've worked, you know, in the nonprofit sector. Clay has as well. I'll let him talk a little bit about that. But what I do now is I do teach at Shorter mainly. That's my home. I love that place. But I also coach cheerleading at Excel. And then I also help this guy with RPM, of course. Somebody has to do the back of the house so you can see him at all the networking events, right? So I help him out with that. But, yeah, that's a little bit about me.
So you're teaching, I guess, all the other stuff, you're doing all that by virtual? You're not actually going out to the schools, right?
So the adjuncting?
Yes.
So the adjunct with Oral Roberts is completely online. TWU is hybrid. So I do go up there and teach a residency for their executive program. Where students can come for that one weekend. It's very intense. They have a big project, but it's a hybrid one.
So you mentioned a little bit about working with United Way, and you said you also did some stuff with Fellowship of Christian Athletes. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure you guys will be there anyway, but August 16th is the next trivia, and it's for FCA Bartow. So
yeah, I think we already bought our tickets.
Not yet. The ticket link hadn't gone up yet.
Oh,
so
okay.
You
Clay
will.
Does that
you
for
will
me.
Monday. So that's when it comes
Monday.
up.
Okay.
Yeah. So. Other than that, obviously it's a passion of yours, but why is it important to be a part of the community and giving back and just helping others? Well,
I feel like the way I was raised in my family, I feel like the community poured so much into me, into myself, the school, really the community in general, the churches, the chamber. I did, youth leadership, and I feel like all these professionals poured into me, and I really want to do that for other youth. I want to do it for these young adults that don't know what to do, whether it's the military, whether it's technical college, whether it's no college at all, right? Mm-hmm. Everybody has a different path and a different, plan for their life, and those plans change constantly. So being able to help them maneuver that, but just really to give back to the community that poured into me so much.
All right, so I'm going to ask you, because I'm sure it's a different story than what he's going to give. How did you guys meet?
So we actually met on Facebook. We met online on social media. He actually played baseball with my brother, and then he slid in the DMs 8 years ago.
Nice.
That's the best way to say it.
Nice.
8 years ago.
Yeah, can't wait for my turn.
Yeah, there you go. But I like the baseball reference there. Slid in.
So he already knew me, kind of.
Right.
Kind of.
So I'm glad it worked out because I worked and dated somebody I met on Facebook and it was a disaster. So I'm glad that you get an example of it working. So.
Yeah. So we can be the poster child.
There you go.
They need us.
There you go. All right, Clay. You're also a veteran.
Yes.
Remind me of the branch you served.
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps. Obviously, you look like a Marine. So there you go.
Yeah.
So share your story if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I joined straight out of high school. Literally, I graduated. As soon as I graduated, I went down to PCB. You know, it was a graduation trip, which was probably not a smart idea. But when I was down there, my recruiter called me and said, "Hey, can you leave tomorrow?" And I said, "Sure. I'm in PCB right now, but I can be there." So I came back from PCB. Literally the next day, went to MEPS, and then went to Parris Island, and that started a career that I had no idea what was to come. But it was great. I loved it. I was infantry. I was part of the 2nd Battalion, 9th Marines. As soon as I got to the fleet, we did a workup. Went to Iraq. Was there 7 months. Came back from Iraq. Was only back like 3 months, and then we went to Central America and did counter narcotics missions with the DEA and Coast Guard Special Operations. And we were at Gitmo, and then came back from that deployment and went on another one back to Afghanistan. And there I was injured overseas, and I was sent back home and medically retired out of the Marine Corps. So after that, I moved back to Georgia. Didn't really know what I wanted to do. You know, I was like, man, I've been through a lot in the past 10 years. I just kind of want to take it easy, lay low. And so I was managing a Zaxby's in Cartersville. And like she said, we met on Facebook, and she's like, "Where do you work at?" And I told her. Well, she showed up. She showed up, and so I gave her some free food.
I tried to get the free food. Okay, I was hungry. I was a college student at the time.
That's how
okay,
it started. Well, and so anyways, that sparked conversations. We started dating, and of course there was a travel piece in there because she was going to Lee at the time, and anyways, so we dated for quite a while. A lot of long weekends, go traveling back up to Cleveland, back down to Rome where I lived at, and so we got engaged, and she said, "Hey, do you want to move to Tennessee?" And I said, "Sure, why not? I have nothing else going on." So I moved up to Tennessee, and she said, "You're gonna go back to school, or you're gonna go to school." And I said, "You're crazy. I'm not going to school." And she said, "Oh no, you're going to go to school." She said, I think you'll do great at it." And I said, "Okay, I'll give it a shot. All right, I'll give it a shot." And so I went to school and at Tennessee Wesleyan. I got my undergrad there, and then I went on to get my master's at Tennessee Wesleyan as well. So she got me for 2 terms, at school. She's trying to get me to go back to get a doctorate, but no, that's not going to happen. I've seen the tears over here, and I know no way I can handle it. But in the meantime, while up in Tennessee, I was AmeriCorps Vista, which is like the domestic Peace Corps for the United States, because I wanted to give back in a different way. I didn't want to go be a police officer. I wanted to, because in being infantry, that's kind of what's out there for you, And I was like, I want to do something different, something unique. And so she worked for the AmeriCorps Vista program too at the time. And I said, what can what's out there for me? And she said, "I think you'll like this program called the YMCA Youth Community Action Project." And I said, "Okay, what's that?" She said, YCAP is a at-risk, it's a group for at-risk youth ages 10 to 13 in the metropolitan Chattanooga area. And I said, "Okay, that's cool, I guess." I've never worked with kids, didn't really see myself working with kids. And so I went to work with them, and I was there about 6 months, and they hired me on to work to open a site with another lady. Her name was Sloan, and me and her went to Ottawa, and we opened a site, ran a site there, and did that for 4 or 5 years. And it was the most rewarding, one of the most rewarding things, I've done other than my time in the military, and just being able to see these kids who were all victims of crime of some sort, and knowing the backgrounds they came from, and seeing them grow, become young men and women, and go to high school. And, now they're starting to graduate, and I'm starting to get phone calls, and, I'm like, oh man, I'm getting old. Like, I remember, when they were little anyway. So that was very rewarding. Andy Smith up there in Chattanooga does a great job with the YCAP program, him and his staff, and they're still going strong today. They just opened up another site in East Brainerd, I think is where it's at. But they do great things up there. I mean, they're really the hands and feet of Jesus with those kids that are going through the school system. And so while we were up there, she got hired on, at Shorter. And so we had to make the transition. And so we made the transition back to Georgia. And, I really didn't know what I was going to do then either, so I saw that Mohawk Industries at the time had a position for recruiting military personnel that are getting out of the military. And they said, hey, you want to come be our recruiter, basically? And I said, sure. So I traveled the country and went to all the bases, and it was kind of nice because, you know how to talk to them, and you're back around in that environment again, and getting those individuals, that were coming out of the military, a job in the civilian workforce in a corporate, job, a Fortune 500 company, and seeing them, be able to come straight out, smoothly transition into a decent paying job and have a some structure right off the bat, which is kind of unheard of in some instances. And so I did that. And then while we were on a trip, actually, there was a lady who helps veterans start their own business. And the one trip I took my wife on.
Okay, I have to come in at this point. Okay. So I went on one trip only, and the whole ride up there, Clay's talking about how he loves his job, but he doesn't think that this is what he's called to do, and he feels like he should be an entrepreneur. And he's talked about, property management, real estate before. And anyways, I get up there. I'll let you. I just had to give that preface before he keeps going.
Yeah. So anyways, I get up there and it's these guys, like these service members, they go through a class, right? They go through a class and for them to get out, it's part of their criteria. So they go in, these speakers come in, these people from other, jobs, they come in, they give basically a 60-second spiel of who they are, why they should come work for their company. Then they go work in then they go out there and it's like a little mini career fair. And so I'm up there doing my thing. I come back down, and my wife here has taken my stuff off the table and moved it somewhere else that I didn't even want to go. And I was like,
I didn't like the table placement. It wasn't really good for the fair. Let's talk about that.
It was great for me. Wasn't great for her. She moved it. Okay. Well, when she did, the whole time these guys and girls were coming through and talking to us. My wife's sitting there talking to this lady. I'm like, hey, you need to go let her, recruit some service members. And she said, oh, she has you. And I said, okay, we're going to talk about this afterwards, and so didn't think anything of it. Long story short, I was her recruit, and it took us about a year, but she kind of walked and guided us through the process of starting a business from, point A to point B, and here we are now. So.
Well, so that's a good lead in. We'll get to real property management in a second, but this is for you and Kimberly because you're both vets. I might have mentioned this. I think I mentioned it to you. I don't know if I mentioned it to you, Kimberly, but there is an organization out of Dallas, Georgia called the Auto Circle Foundation. They work with veterans and first responders on PTSD, suicide prevention, and the transition back into society and working. Yeah. So we're hopefully going to be doing a expo in November for businesses that are owned by veterans, first responders, and businesses that hire them. So I'd like for Clay and Kimberly to share some advice for those who might be listening who are either getting ready to come out of the service or those who have retired and thinking about what's next. Can you give some advice to those guys or gals?
The biggest thing that I've seen just traveling around recruiting these guys and kind of put my own story into it is do your planning, plan ahead of time. A lot of people like me, I was like, oh, that day's never going to come. Or even when it was coming, I was like, oh, I'll have something lined up. The best thing to do is do your homework, plan. Listen to your transition assistants, counselors, just plan. There's so many people out there, they just don't plan, and they go in there and no guidance and they struggle. And, but there's a lot of help nowadays that's out there with the transitioning services. And so, get on LinkedIn, especially connect, network, find people. There's organizations out there that write free resumes for veterans. Link up with them, get a resume, start sending it out to businesses and go to these job fairs, that Recruit Military does or the ones on base. They have hiring events on base, they can go to that. I mean, that's just a short, small snippet of it, but yeah, plan.
Kimberly, what would you say?
I would say the transition from military to civilian life is so different. it took me a long time to finally get it together. Because I was so structured, like I got up at 4:30 in the morning and I went and PT'd, and then I knew I had to do this next, and I had this and this and this, and I know I didn't get off until this time, and so it was so structured. And then when I retired, it was like, okay, what do I do now? Like, I don't know. Like, do I still need to get up at 4:30 in the morning? Like, my husband's like, why are you getting up at 4:30 in the morning? I'm like, I'm so ingrained in 4:30 in the morning, And so, and it's so funny, like coming here, I was like, I need to start getting back up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm like, because I was like, I'm missing out on a lot of stuff. Like, I need to start doing that, even as a business owner. But the transition, it took me a while to finally get my footing, because I didn't have somebody telling me what to do, or, somebody basically saying, this is what you got today, for your schedule and stuff. And it was me having to put my schedule together. So that was a little different for me. But just know that you got to, find something that you like, right? Find something that you really enjoy doing and that you like. But two, it takes a while for you to get used to it, because the civilian world is completely different. And you'll find that the way we operate in the military and the way civilians operate is not the same. Like, it is not the same. Like, there's accountability over, in the military, it's accountability. You got to show up on time. You show up like on time is late, all of that ingrained in you. And then when you over here on the civilian world, like, what time the meeting started? I thought we were supposed to start at 10 o'clock. It's 10:30. We haven't started yet. Like, what's going on? And so you got to get used to, that kind of stuff too. But the transition for me was a struggle for a while. It probably took me about 6 to 8 months to finally be like, okay, this is what I got to do. This is how I do it, because I felt like I was like flailing a little bit, with the transition, trying to figure out, what to do. And I had my business, but I worked my business in pockets of time around the military schedule. Now I have a full day to work my business, and I had no idea what to do, so it definitely takes a little time to get used to it.
I'd say too, there's this mentality of transition to service members, regardless of from whether they're E1 to, I won't go into the higher ranking officers, because they've probably already, with their connections, already have jobs getting out. But, you got to know that you're starting over. This is your civilian career. And I had the same mentality. I was like, I'm going to come out and I'm going to get this high paying job, and be middle level manager right off the bat. And that was a quick, slap in the face, because it's, you're going to have to start from the bottom again. Not saying you're going to be entry level, but you're not going to come out and be in a leadership role immediately, to the level that you were in the military. So that's kind of hard, thing for some service members to wrap their head around, and just know that, hey, yeah, it seems like you're taking a step back, but I mean, it's different, in the civilian world. Like she said, you kind of got to adapt to how things are being done on the civilian side, and just, kind of sit back and watch and listen and learn how it goes. Yeah.
You have to give yourself time. You have to give yourself time,
I'm still adjusting.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I'm sure it takes you, because your body has to adjust naturally anyway for all kinds of things. Even if you're not military, and my mom just retired, and she's trying to adjust to the retirement, and she's not even a week into it. So, all right, so that's a good transition. Let's talk about real property management. What do you guys do, and who do you serve?
So we do residential property management and small commercial. We service 6 different counties, so Bartow, Floyd, Polk, Paulding, Carroll, and Harrelson. And we can do outside of those territories. We just can't market. We can't go in another territory and market. But we do specialize in Airbnbs, VRBOs now. So we are getting calls from people all, as far down as the Panhandle, wanting us to do their marketing for them, do their property manage their units down there. So it's kind of a mixed array. So we have residential, we have the Airbnbs, we have apartment complexes. I mean, you name it. And so with us, it's the reason we got into property management is because we rented for 4 years when we lived in Tennessee. And I could tell you, if I had known what I know now, it would have been a different situation up there. But one of the reasons why when we started this business was we thought back then, we said, one day we're going to start a business and we're never going to be treat anyone else how we were treated. And little did we know it was property management, and now we're in this. And I always look back and say, hey, we're never, be fair in what you do and be honest in what you do, and have goodwill and good intent and with your clients, whether it's the owner or the tenants. And that seemed to work out pretty good. So instead of, I don't want to put them on blast or anything, but there was just there's a lot of property managers out there. People hear property management and they shy away. They're like, ugh.
Right. Yeah, there's a negative connotation there.
Yeah. And so how could we change that? So we, at least in our community, obviously. And so we started RPM and it is a franchise headquartered out of Dallas, Texas. And we went over there and got our training, learned the business model, got my real estate license, came back, opened up here, and now we're servicing the Northwest Georgia area. Mm-hmm. And I'll kind of let her touch on the Give Back program that we have.
Yeah, like he said, we do have 2 clients. We have our owners that own, like it's their asset, right? The property. But then we also have the tenants, just because, it's their home too. It's their place that they get to go home every day after a hard day and they get to unwind. So we know that side just because of how we were treated through that process. So I think that's one thing about us is we're very intentional, not just to, okay, we'll just ask the owner or like snub the tenant, right? Because we want to listen to their issue as well. So the one thing that we do that's pretty cool is we have what's called a Give Back program for the owners. So when the owner signs on with us, they get a choice to opt in a percentage of the management fee, not of their money that they get, but of our management fee, can go to a nonprofit of their choice. So whatever they're passionate about, whether it's Beach Charitable Pursuits, whether it's All In, All Out, right? Whatever, United Way, whatever they're interested in, they get to pick that nonprofit and a percentage goes there. So every year we cut the check for that nonprofit. And the cool thing about it is when we cut it, it's a tax break for that owner, because they've been donating. So it's kind of cool if you look at it. It's a way that we can give back to the community, but also the owners know that they're giving back a little bit too. So we're trying to kind of change the stigma of property management. And of course, we can only start with us. Right?
Well, that's awesome. I think a lot of people start businesses because of the way they were treated or saw the way people were treated. I need to connect you guys because I don't think I've done it yet. Do you guys know Daniel and Aaron Reese? They're husband and wife real estate team here in Woodstock, but they do something similar where they give back their commissions to the person's choice of a nonprofit.
Oh, cool.
So I'll make you guys that connection. So, so I got some questions on the property management. Yeah. All right. So is there a difference in working with an investor versus somebody maybe like me who owns a home and just wants to rent it out?
Yes.
Sure, there's a difference. If you have one home, investors usually come in and they're either building a whole complex, and they have 50 to 100 homes. So, the prices look different, the paperwork looks different, but our specialty, while we deal with a lot of investors, our specialty is a single, family home. Mm-hmm. So if you come to me and you say, hey, I've got a home, I own a home, I want to make a little passive income, I just bought another one, or hey, I'm moving, I want to rent mine. That's where we kind of come in. We say, hey, okay, this is what we're built for. Here's what we can do for you.
Especially because there's different types of owners, right? You got the investors, mm-hmm. You have those accidental owners, mm-hmm. the ones that, my parent just mm-hmm. died, this is my family home. That's completely different than an investor. An investor, they want to know the money, they want to know when they get their check. They're thinking about all the financials, where that person's like, okay, can you do an evaluation? Can you go take a photo? And we do evaluations for our owners so they can opt in on how many times a year they want Clay personally to go out there, take photos of the home so that they can see, well, this is our family home. This is where I grew up. Yeah. The floor's still doing good. Oh, yeah, I see, the fire. Because it's their home, too. Mm-hmm. So it really depends on the type of owner. But, there's a difference.
You can obviously tell which one they like working with best.
Yeah.
All right. So if I guess, and this may be some dumb questions, I'm going to ask them anyway. But so as a homeowner, and you want to rent out a property, when you do sign you guys on as the management team, the owner is not working with the people living, the tenants. No. They're calling you to work everything.
Yeah, so you have no contact. You don't even know who's living in your house. You don't even know who's living in your house. You just, that's where you trust us. You hired us to do the job. We're the middleman. Mm-hmm. So we have a very thorough screening process, probably one of the toughest ones in our area. I mean, of course, we do the credit check, we do a background check, we do the reference checks, employment checks. I mean, we
do our due diligence.
Yeah, we really want to make sure that we are putting the best person in that home, the best fit for it, and so. Because like she said, it's your asset too, and while you're not there, you want to know that you have a good qualified tenant in there, not somebody who's going to trash it and rent it and claim squatters' rights, yes. and that's a big thing right now. And so I guess really, it's just, I don't know.
Yeah. And equal housing is very important too. Yeah. So when it comes to that, we make sure that the owner never knows who the tenant is, and the tenant doesn't know who the owner is. All communication goes through us. So they may say, like the owner may say, well, I drove by the property and I saw this. Okay. Well, legally you can't step on that property. Please do not. I know it's yours, but everything comes through us because your headache is now our headache.
Renters have laws too.
And they have rights. They have protections, and we're trying to protect both sides. So that's kind of the cool thing that we do. We have one owner who has 7 properties, and he's like, I want no one to know that I own this property. So, of course, we advised him to put it into an LLC that does not have his name on it, like some kind of encrypted LLC to put those properties under because, tenants are smart. They'll look it up. They'll start calling him at midnight about the water heater. No, that's us. So we're able to play kind of that.
We handle everything.
Yeah.
We handle the maintenance, the financing, and on both sides for the tenant and the owner. You have your own portfolio. The tenant has their own portfolio, and they can go online at any time and they can, submit a maintenance request. They can pay their rent. They can, whatever it is. And we give a quarterly, sheet. I guess what am I thinking of?
We give that financial statement.
The financial
to
statement.
The owner,
She's my back of the house.
Yes, there you go.
But so they get a quarterly financial statement, to show, what the rent roll is for the past 3 months, the maintenance log, what are they making? If we kind of do a 12-month projection to show them, in 12 months, this is what where you should be at, how much you should make. And are you still, as an owner, going to make a profit, over the next 5-10 years, if you keep renting this compared to if you just sold now?
Yeah. And then one other thing that's unique about us as well is we have a resident benefit package that the owners love that we do. So this is where when the tenant comes on, instead of having to pay insurance and all this fun stuff, insurance is included in this resident benefit package. So they pay $50 a month, and it comes with full coverage renter insurance. It comes with filter service. So the filters are coming quarterly. We put that in. It comes with pest control. It comes with special things that the tenant can hop on to their portal, and they can get like discounts for food and stuff. So like DoorDash or something may give them like 20% off like that week. So there's a resident benefit package that the owners love because they know the tenants are being taken care of, but also the asset is being taken care of, home, the property.
Yeah, one good thing about that resident benefit package, the renters have a choice to opt in to meet with an advisor, and that advisor will coach and guide them along the way to buying a home. And so they
building that credit,
building their credit. They teach them. I mean, and it's not mandatory. They have to opt into it, but it is there. And we have a couple that have taken advantage of it now. And I don't.
I mean, I wish I had that back in the day.
And our goal is for the tenant not to have them in there, for longer than needed. So I'm hoping at the end of their lease that they're able to buy and move on and go on to bigger and better things and buy a home. That's what that's
be a homeowner.
Be a homeowner. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask if you guys took care of everything for the maintenance. So thanks for reading my mind on that. So you just mentioned lease. Is there a difference between leasing and renting? I know the difference if you do a car, but what's the difference between leasing and renting in a home?
There's some contractual agreements that, things that the small print that's different on the property management side at least. So like if we rent your home, leasing is basically it's usually short term. On our end, it is at least, and it's more of commercial based. You're doing it for a business that's got different. It's got different, like I said, it's different contractual agreements. There's things in there that differ from just like a residential property, and a lot of legalities that play in. There's different laws that go into a commercial lease than just a residential lease.
I mean, you pretty much said it. Leasing is definitely on the short term. With the commercial, where the renting is going to be your typical 1 year, 12-month contractual single family or even multifamily with apartments.
And listen,
stuff like
there's
that.
people out there that will lease to you for 3 years. I mean, and I don't advise it, but
Right.
Right. Yeah, don't advise it, but there's a difference, and it depends on your insurance has to be stated a certain way. It's more costly in some instances, not all, but some. Yeah. And so it's just really what you're trying to do. It varies per person.
Right.
Do you want it to be sold? To be rented by a business, or do you want somebody to live in it?
Right. So, what's a benefit for a real estate agent to work with you guys? Because I mean, obviously they are working with folks looking for homes and like that. So, what kind of benefit is it with working with another real estate agent?
Yeah. So we have a realtor referral program where if a realtor refers a homeowner to us and they sign a management agreement, they get $500. And so that can add up pretty quick. One of our biggest contributors right now is Stormy. And so, by the way, Stormy, if you're listening, you have money coming your way. But no, it's this realtor referral program. It's actually been really great. We get calls as far east as Beaufort, of people that are like, "Hey, saw your LinkedIn post. I have a client that's moving out there and they're buying a home, and they want to rent out another home. It's crazy. You'd be surprised. Right. There's money out there that I had no idea existed, right. And I'm like, how do I get into that circle?
Right. What about from folks that are in the mortgage industry? Do you guys work with those folks as well?
Yeah, we work real close with the mortgage lenders because they're dealing with clients that whether they're buying a home or buying I guess you could say investment properties. Mm-hmm. Those are big ones. So a lot of our mortgage lenders they'll call me and say, hey, I have a lead for you. I have somebody who's interested in buying, 6 homes in Bartow County, or they have Airbnb or VRBOs or Verbos that, houses. And we know you guys can do that because that can be kind of a headache. Can you guys take care of that? And so we do work closely with the mortgage lenders. They do call us, they give us leads so it really right now it's more the realtors that are sending stuff our way, but the mortgage lenders, they do contact us and say, hey, I do have leads. They kind of got to be careful, too, because they have contractual agreements with privacy acts, and they don't want to tell sometimes, exactly who it is, and especially if it's not a strong lead. So, and the realtors, they get money.
All right. There you go. Yeah. There you go. So I'm guessing with your background too, you don't have a problem if you go in and, not eject? What's the
evict?
Evict.
Yeah.
No, he does not have that issue.
No. We've only had one instance where somebody was it got testy, but it's everything was good. It didn't get physical or anything crazy like that, but we thought it was. It's like I said, it happens in everywhere. There's people, they have these lock boxes. It's like that you can go around and you can put a code in, and you can go and tour the house yourself. The real estate agent doesn't even have to be there. Well, what we ran into is people are putting in the code and then they're going in and squatting.
Oh. Or they're scamming people, and they'll put up photos and they'll rent out the property. But
what?
Yes,
they'll rent out the property, and so we had to go in and say, hey, you got to pack your stuff. Like, it's time you got to get out of here. I'm not going to call the police if you just leave.
That's definitely Clay's part of the job versus mine. That's not on my job.
I think we should come up with in the jets and then have an ejection seat where you just.
Well, it's funny. I was like, look, I understand. I don't understand what you're going through, but maybe I can help you find housing. And so. Well, it didn't turn into a client, but it was actually a pretty healthy conversation for somebody who was really in a tough spot. So. Yeah, we deal with those, unfortunately. But it's part of the business. I mean,
Right.
it comes with it.
So if somebody's listening and thinking about wanting to have some passive income and thinking this is the route to go, other than calling you,
Yep.
give them some advice to start the process.
So if they're looking for to have investment property, I would say first thing to do if you haven't talked to anybody is talk to a financial advisor first. Make sure this is something that's suitable for you and your family and your goals and where you want to be. Or also talk to your realtors, talk to your friends, talk to other people in the business, talk to real estate attorneys. They're really good about letting you know what's going on. There's a lot of, behind the scene deals that can happen there too. And so, get the advice, before you just jump into it, because just because you see what you think might be a great price tag on something is not always the best investment.
And like I said earlier, I would establish an LLC.
Yeah.
That way, if anything happens legally, it doesn't come after you, your family, your personal. It comes after the LLC. Also, when that tenant looks up who owns the property, it'll be under the LLC versus you. So it also protects your privacy. So that's one thing I would do is talk with a attorney and get an LLC established, especially if you're trying to get started, even if it's just one home, because anything could happen. And you want to really protect you, your family, and all that fun stuff. So I would definitely get an LLC if you're really thinking about that.
And that starts with a real estate attorney. A real estate attorney can do most of them can do that.
Yeah.
That's some great advice. So, all right, you mentioned you love giving back. Why is it important to give back?
So for me, it's really important because, when I came home, when I was injured overseas and I came home, my hometown, they rallied around me, my family, they took care of them. They took care of me. And I'm very passionate about that. And so kind of like Amanda said, I want to give back to who gave back to me so much. And then after working, with that at-risk youth in Chattanooga, that just opened a whole nother, soft spot in my heart I didn't know I had. And so, I go every day and I think about those kids and what can I do to be better to give back to the community that we live in. And so that's why I'm passionate about it. That's why we looked at this giving back program. And because, while we're in property management, that doesn't mean we still can't give back. And so this is our way of making a difference.
I mentioned last week, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. If you're passionate, you're able to do that kind of stuff. So you guys have been coming lately to the trivia, and I appreciate it. But it's funny watching him play because he ever comes up, brings the answer, and it's so mad because it's like, man, that's the hardest thing I've ever heard.
Listen, it's like when you didn't study for a test, and you write, you just Christmas tree the thing, and you go to turn it into the teacher, and the teacher knows you didn't study, and the teacher just kind of looks at you like, this is going to be good. That's him. That's Brian.
The worst is the questions from like the 70s, and we're like 90s babies. Okay, so we're like, we don't know. And then last time we were with Kevin Harris, and he was like, I don't know. I was like, Kevin, I need you to step this up, sir.
But you guys finished third.
Well,
yes.
Well,
I was pretty.
Well, I'm impressed. Let me rephrase that. I'm glad we placed, but I feel like we were tied for second, and we were like, and then we had to wager, and I was like, maybe if we just wagered 3 points, because if we get 3, they wager 2, we win. We didn't get anywhere close.
Nobody listened to me. I was like, just do it all or nothing.
We didn't get close.
Let's see how much useless knowledge you're gaining.
Yes.
It's amazing.
Useless knowledge.
But me and Kevin, we really carried the team that night. I mean,
Right?
That's it. That's exactly it.
And my favorite category to ask, just if you ever come, Sharon, is the laws that are on the books but not enforced. Some of those are crazy.
Oh yeah.
So
Well,
About the elephant and the parking ticket.
yeah,
What?
Yes.
I don't know.
Makes no sense.
You asked me a question, Brian, once, and I swear I knew. It was about wars or something. And I swear I knew the answer, and you just kind of looked at me with this smile. I was like, I guess I'm wrong. You were just like, okay, you believe that.
yes. Well, I'll just share one of these because it's kind of funny. And obviously all of these are on the books because somebody sometime tried it. But the one that I'm still wondering about how in the world it even got on the books is in the state of California. Well, that just explains it right there. But It's illegal in the state of California. Remember this if I ever ask this, okay?
Okay. All right.
It's illegal in the state of California for any kind of animal to mate within 20 feet of a church or school.
What?
Now, how, first of all, I'm sorry, Mr. Squirrel, you're coming with me.
Oh my God.
What are you doing?
Could you imagine what happened for that law
Right?
to go into place?
I mean, it's like, yeah.
Someone complained.
Either that or they were dressed up in those outfits and somebody took them.
ask that
as
in
a-
right, yeah.
And
Can you
arrest
ask
the
that in
animal?
August? Yeah. We know one. 6 points.
Yes. Yes. All right. So if somebody's listening and wants to get a hold of you for your services, how can they do that?
Well, they can go online and reach out to us there at www.rpmallies.com, or they can call the office at 678-680-5065.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm still
That's
learning.
it.
You don't ever call yourself, right?
No,
Yeah.
never.
And it's all wired to my cell phone, so I just pick it
Right.
up.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of useless knowledge, you can share as much as you can, but you guys just had a pretty cool experience. So you got to learn some more of this. You guys were just on Family Feud.
We were, yes, yeah.
Share what you can.
Okay, so I can say this. I can't tell you what exactly happened, but I can tell you we are scheduled to go back for next season.
Awesome.
So the filming is not over.
Okay.
That was the most stressful day.
It was very stressful. It
and
was
then
a
now I
whole
got to go
lot of
back and do it
fun.
all over.
Well, it was a whole lot of fun
It
because
was.
you get there and you have to be on like 24/7. So you're like on the stage, off the stage. Steve Harvey walks past you. He's now gone, right? So you're like kind of like doing this whirlwind of emotions and you have to be there. We had to leave at like 5 a.m.
Yeah.
to get there for filming. And
Where was the filming?
Trillis
Trillis, yeah.
Studios
Is that down by the airport, past the airport?
past the airport. Yeah.
Oh, it's in Georgia.
Yeah, so it wasn't bad at all. We actually stopped to meet the rest of the family at Chick-fil-A, and we're all dressed up, right? It's like 6 a.m. We're all like dressed to a T, and a guy comes up to Clay, and he's like, "Are you here with your family?" And Clay's like, "What?"
No, he came out. He said, "Are you with a family over there that, wearing the matching shirts?" And I said, "What's it matter to you?" I'm like, "Who are you?" And he was like, "I'll see you in a little bit." And I'm like, "Is this part of it?"
Yeah, and it was one of the guys. He was like, "I'm actually
he's
your
like,
stagehand for the day."
Your
We're like,
stagehand. I was like, "Oh, okay."
yeah.
I started thinking of like Taken. He was
like,
"Oh Lord, here we
Yeah,
go."
he was like, "Y'all are filming for Family Feud, aren't you?"
Yeah,
And he was
yeah.
like, "How do you know that?" Well, not many families are dressed up in like
We're in the same.
suits
Right.
and
It's,
dresses
right.
and heels
Yeah.
that early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know, can you share when the first one might air?
So then this season that we just went for airs in October,
Okay.
and then we go back in January
And that one
to
won't-
film, and then that'll be the next
The
October.
next October.
Gotcha.
Oh, wow.
So
Yeah.
how is Steve Harvey in person?
Oh, incredible!
Is he just like on TV?
He's so
yeah.
much better
Oh, yeah,
than you
he's-
think. Like I had high expectations, exceeded it.
And
Like,
he's very personable. Like, I mean,
He is.
he makes it a point, like, during the commercial breaks, he comes and pulls up a stool at the front and he just
Yeah.
talks. He just talks to everybody. If you got a question, ask it.
Yeah.
He'll talk to you.
Yeah.
He's not, he doesn't walk off to the side, doesn't talk to anybody. No, he's very personable and he'll call you out too. If you say something that's funny and he can't really say anything on
can't
there,
call it out,
he'll wait
yeah.
till afterwards and he'll call you out then,
Oh, but on the air though, it's hilarious watching him, some of his facial expressions,
Oh,
and
yeah.
calling some of the people out.
Yeah.
And that's just a sliver. So it took 2 hours to film a 22-minute show, okay? And that's because he says so much. So it really feels like if you're not playing, you're in the audience. And it really felt like a comedy show. Like I was at a personal Steve Harvey comedy show all day long. It was top notch. I mean,
Sharon,
you
I
gotta
got
go.
a homework assignment for you.
What's that?
We need to get Steve Harvey on Charitable Georgia.
Yeah.
Do you imagine?
Yeah.
You know people who know people.
Right?
Yeah.
So next time,
In January.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll send you the link. You need to come watch
Yeah,
us.
I was going to say
In person.
They're going to have
It's
a live
free,
audience.
yeah.
Is it
It's free. Just come
Listen,
and
I would love to come just to be part of like something kind of special that way.
it is. It's,
You know,
it's
who-
neat.
and then we can cheer you on.
You can, yeah.
So we can't talk to you. I can't
It's
say
weird,
that.
yeah.
So if you say like, "Hey Clay, hey Amanda," we cannot acknowledge
Acknowledge.
you
Yeah.
because
Okay.
then they think
We're cheating.
we're cheating. So even if we wave, they take that as a hand signal.
Oh.
Or
Oh, yeah,
if we
they're
look
very-
at you, so like we'll know you're there, of course, because the audience is not that. I mean, the whole
big,
room
yeah.
is not very big at all. I was expecting to be massive. It's really not that big. So we'll know you're there. But it is free, so I'll send you the link
All
so
right.
you can come.
Well, baseball, we'll just do some signals.
Yeah.
There you go.
Hey, it's wild. And you don't see it on TV, but they have people that stand on the side of the crowd and they watch for people talking to each other, and they watch for
and talking to you.
talking to you, and if you're on stage, they look for signals.
They got their own bouncers.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, really,
Yeah,
they do.
exactly.
Yeah. And that's why it's so nerve-wracking.
And it's so loud in there. I mean, it's hard to hear him. At one point, like when you watch it, I'm like doing this. Because I'm trying to watch his mouth. I'm like, I can't even hear you, and Steve is right beside me.
Yeah.
But also a little starstruck. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
What?
Wow. That's awesome. All right, so you shared a little bit about doing some stuff with Excel and stuff. Do they have
Yes.
anything you want to share? Maybe some events that they might be having coming up?
Oh, well, of course, school's about to start. So right now there's some events kind of coming down the line. One is the auction that always comes up in October. We do have an auction. It's the ECA Legacy auction. That's a fun one to come to, especially if you want to buy some Christmas presents early and donate at the same time. So they have that one. And then I'm trying to get a comedy night going with
Big Rich?
Yep. So hopefully
So he was
that
my
goes.
co-host the other night at the thing. We were the co-MCs.
I'm really intrigued by this because she's lined up Big Rich, and Katie has lined up her brother who
Carter Deems. He was on
Deems.
Wild and Out. I don't know if you know the show with Nick
yeah.
Cannon.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
he was on. So we're trying to get them to come the same night.
two polar opposites.
wow.
Right? So if that doesn't work out for one of them, I just found out I was on the phone with one of my athletes that was there the other night. He's
Yeah.
a former soccer player.
Yeah.
Spent 2 years doing stand-up.
Really?
And I was out there just hysterically laughing because, anyway, just let me know because we might be able to get into it.
Yeah.
Okay, that would be awesome.
So,
Yeah.
all right. So as we wrap this up, I like to do this. I like for each of you to share one positive quote, nugget, or word that people can listen to today, the rest of 2023 and beyond with. So, Kimberly, what you got?
I would say,
No pressure.
Mary Kay always used to say, if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, then you're right.
Amanda.
A vision without execution is just a hallucination. So if you have a dream, you have that vision, go for it because you never know.
Clay?
Yeah. Hey, listen, you put me on the spot on this one. These two have like rehearsed. I mean, if you're asking for advice, just, if you're going to put your mind to it, do it. I know things can be, deterring at times and you think it can't happen. Just if you put your mind to it, it will happen, and don't give up.
Although people always say I put him on the spot. If you ever listened to episodes in the past, you heard I asked it every single time.
I did listen to a few, so I knew it was
We
coming.
listened to it.
Notice I
not on the
didn't
way.
tell him.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. The other thing is the thank you is a lost art these days. So, Kimberly, thank you for your service. Thank you for what you're doing for all the folks in their skincare. Amanda, thank you for what you're doing for the young adults, the youth. And Clay, thank you for your service and everything you're doing for the residents and the owners of the homes and just the community itself. So, everybody listening, let's remember, let's be positive, let's be charitable.